You know, there was a time, quite recently, well, relatively recently, I had a series of conversations over the internet. Do people say that over the internet? You know, voice, voice chatting, calling, you know, somebody that I met in the socionics circles, right? And it we could talk about most things, but there was there were a couple of subjects that for different reasons that caused that I for the sake of wanting to put someone at ease, you want them to be sort of relatively calm. I I would choose to avoid, or I was advised to avoid. One of them won't be surprising. One was related to religion, and I went. I was quite honest. I went down the skeptical route. This person was claiming the power of prayer and how it's healed people. And I know that isn't true. And claims when somebody claims uh, something like that is an empirical fact of a problem, I know the opposite. Yeah, prayer. Prayer can help people. Can has been shown to have some health benefits when it comes to healing people. Well, that's true. Well, who would need hospitals, right? It would only be a matter of time, considering the fact you have sort of the majority of people on Earth are religious. I don't want to deprive anybody of their religion, because, as I mentioned, there are health benefits. I would deprive certain people of existence, but I don't wish to deprive them of something that is, it is a structure for their personality. Something came up. I don't know how this came up. He somehow. This is actually a taboo. This subject is taboo, especially amongst scientists. Um, and that topic is actually a very interesting one for me, because it's one of the areas that really will show people who are, yeah, they earn living from their intelligence or their academic achievement. But the answers they come up with are are somewhat lacking. Now, to this person, and I'm going to call this person Duke, because I don't really want to. These things were these worries. Did I tell you what it is? I mean aliens. Right? I didn't mention what it is. Aliens. We're talking about aliens, as in extraterrestrial species. It's a case of he. It's a case of a certain when people get in a certain mood, they will they won't have the same guard as a person who is 75 or 85% psychologically healthy. I'm not sure what psychologically healthy is, but should we say more psychologically stable, as in they can get by. There is, I believe, there's some kind of survival mechanism that makes certain people susceptible to things that may or may not be true. And this person, I don't know if I told this person this, but the thing in particular, something that worried him, this case of the brain filter. This is not. I don't mean a brain filter in that something one shouldn't talk about. A brain filter in that you can only put so much in before it doesn't work as well as it should. He had an irrational worry about the Nate. I'm laughing, but it's not. He isn't ridiculous. He wasn't ridiculous, but this is an outlandish. In the space of things, outlandish to think upon this too much. He was very worried about the prospect that aliens intend to eat us. As in, I think what he means is harvest humans. That is what he's worried about. Now, I had heard things. I don't mean that some plan has been revealed that aliens are going to harvest humans. I've heard things that there are people who have been, I believe this is a real word, desanguinated. It's a very fancy word, meaning bled to death. Maybe they died first, but that wasn't established, and quite horrifically mutilated. These are the people that have been found, and in these cases, in a few cases, I wish I had the facts in front of me. In a few cases, believe it or not, they've had something to do with research in that area, supposed research into advanced technologies from alien spacecraft. I only know what I will view on the internet. I'm not the deepest involved in this. But I wanted to calm him down. I don't think it's healthy to think about these things. But is it illogical? When the conversations that I've had with scientists, or those who claim to be scientists, they've been somewhere between the academic and the, let's say, autodidact when it comes to science, and not denigrating autodidacts. They may have a great knowledge. There's the argument you'll hear very much due to it being a convention, when they are would it be a more prominent scientist, there is something of an Overton window. That means the area of acceptable verbal discourse. You can't or shouldn't talk about certain subjects, right? The same way as you wouldn't be a good idea to deny that climate change is anthropogenic. At least not too loudly. It may be acceptable to claim ignorance. Now, the aliens thing, regardless of whether or not you believe they have visited Earth or are visiting Earth, are sort of bypassing our present. I do. My belief, my knowledge of this has increased over the years. That's my stance. In this case, I thought it was probably better to kind of calm the person down and say, well, there's as great a possibility that if this one or many civilizations that are visiting here, if they're that advanced, if they wanted to sort of erase humanity, well, they could do it very quickly. But I know at the time that was a useful thing to say. But there's actually it's an irrational fear that he had, but it isn't a stupid idea. There's certain researchers who they create a position on things that alien extraterrestrials are it isn't really a very smart stance to think that they're here for our benefit, right? And you think about the logical thing for an advanced species that isn't human flesh another resource. When I was younger, I had very. It was when I started to allowed myself to question things. I actually had this very unsettling moment of, you could say, a kind of logic, that I had this feeling that something terrible or unpleasant was on the horizon. That actually it wasn't. That why don't people consider that aliens would invade? So indeed, that maybe they have. Thousands upon thousands of cases of, actually very many, you will find the majority are perfectly ordinary people claiming to have seen these things, claiming to have had first encounters of the close encounters of the first kind, that is actually being in contact with these beings. I've experienced missing time. I've experienced very strange things. And perhaps all humans are being experimented on, and we wouldn't know. So the logical fallacy of people who are far too quick to claim to know regarding aliens is that, oh, it would be far too difficult to traverse such great distances. And because they have a PhD, they know, right? They have PhDs, many of them. This claims knowledge of the technology they would have, that is absent. Let's think back. Let's say, we could say 200 years. That's a reasonable space of time, right? The idea of that's the idea of supersonic flight wasn't conceived of. There are things that just by chance have, in a roundabout way, come to pass. People have proposed you could project a vehicle into space. At that time, the idea would have been to use a cannon to project someone into space. They only can conject as far as technology seems to be progressing. So it would have to be, the amount of energy it takes to go to the moon, the distance it takes. The idea that there would be a vehicle. And maybe it's rather patronising of me. But I notice great gaps in the logic of scientists, not only in this area, but in a few areas. I had a physicist, I'm not going to name the person because I don't really want to be exposed as the idiot that I am, claiming, a physicist, a prominent physicist, I mean a very, very prominent physicist. You may or may not have seen his rather bubbly broadcasting style. He's very, very prominent in popular media, and I don't mean the hippie one, that irritating specimen, claiming that evolution has stopped, claiming very eloquently how evolution in humans has stopped, and the only way evolution will continue is by some cybernetics or such. just absolutely nonsense. And I wonder, granted, this is not the person's discipline. He isn't a biologist, even a neurobiologist, not an evolutionary psychologist. What is their understanding of evolution? My understanding is that it happens all the time. Evolution is mate selection, or it's something that will have an effect on the human being. Let's think even more sort of abstractly. That's what's the word? Macroevolution. Actually, evolution of a kind is happening in the human body. The single human entity will change. You can change. You can change your biology by means of sort of life choices, and that would change sort of your gene pool, regardless of whether you had the same mates and you didn't make these changes. The quality of sperm, your longevity. You will affect your offspring. All kinds of changes. How many computers you own, what car you drive, where you live. It's everything that a human does is evolution. So this thinking, the arrogance, even though they don't seem arrogant, they'll claim. The scientists don't claim to know. Yeah, in some areas they very often claim to know. There are people I would sort of assume would know about extraterrestrials. They probably don't benefit from sort of describing things to them. Their rise to of course there are people who financially gain from being within the sort of ET enthusiast community, right? But there are things that astronauts, certain scientists say that's in public that apparently they wouldn't say in private. You know. So I think logically, is it illogical to suspect if an advanced alien species, they really have no moral interest in humans, that they wouldn't use everything on the planet? Everything would be of use. Why wouldn't all animals be harvested exactly as they were in War of the Worlds? Perhaps War of the Worlds was prophetic. What are they doing to people? Well, this has been this is actually going to be. I really wanted to do this video in a better way. One thing I'm happy to, I actually have my professional lighting. I'm going to see how it is, right? And I'm going to bring up the topic of aliens, because there are more alarming things. I mean, not in a depressing. is alarming the word? Striking. The more striking things I can bring up. When I bring it up and I have this evidence in front of me, it's really hard not to at least consider it somewhat